Hello and welcome back to another team news preview ahead of game week 31. There's lots and lots to go through today. How you doing, Neale?
Good, Andy. Yeah. Very, very busy this afternoon because we've had less than 24 hours before the end of game week 30 and the start of 31. So I'll try as best I can as rattle through these injuries as quick as possible. I always say that though when I end up taking half an hour talking about Brighton's right back situation. So I'll try and be as quick as I can.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Let's just get straight into it. Let's start with Man City because Sergio Aguero came off. I'm very frustrated about that as someone who captained him. Is there any kind of news about him yet and the rest of the team?
Well, Pep is one of a handful, I think just three managers who haven't given an official pre-game week 31 press conference. That's because, of course, that City were in action last night against Burnley, the second of their double header. But we do know that Aguero is looking very, very likely to be out of this game against Chelsea, possibly the season. Nothing confirmed as yet. But Pep said he's going to miss a few games for sure. And then it didn't look good for this season. Those were his words straight after the game. So obviously they'll be assessing that today in the medical department. I've seen various rumours on Twitter from numerous sources suggesting he's going to go under the knife in Spain, maybe looking at several weeks, which of course will be enough to rule him out of the rest of this campaign. So I would say it looks incredibly unlikely that he'll feature against Chelsea. For the rest of them, well, we know of two injuries. Garcia was concussed and Stones as well. They might be back. Stones had an ankle problem. In Sterling as well. Probably the first choice fullbacks, Walker and Mendy. Laporte, you'd think would come back in as well, given the magnitude of this game. But at the same time, they've got an FA Cup match on Sunday against Newcastle. So Pep's gone on record before saying that is the more important match. This was back in March, of course. That the FA Cup and the Champions League would take priority over what is essentially a nothing to play for situation in the league. So you're never entirely sure, but you'd think a lot of those benched players against Burnley would come back into the reckoning here, with perhaps Gabriel Jesus leading the line in Aguero's absence.
Yeah, I think a lot of that rotation was probably just because it was a quick game after the one after the break. Because I can't imagine that De Bruyne plays against Chelsea and then doesn't play in the FA Cup if he thinks it's that important. So
Yeah.
maybe two more games we'll try and do a bit more guessing, but it's as impossible as always. What about Liverpool then? A few people had Mo Salah, didn't feature at all. Robertson wasn't even on the bench either. Are they likely to be back, do you think?
Yeah, looks that way. Klopp's just given his press conference in the last hour. So that Salah and Robertson have trained completely normal after they missed out in the derby. Salah was on the bench, of course, but he didn't get on, and Robertson missed out altogether. But we're expecting those back. Klopp didn't give any clues as to whether they were ready to start, but you'd think if Salah was fit enough to be on the bench on Sunday evening, then he's hopefully going to be in a good position to start against Palace. Just two injuries to report from Liverpool. Matip and Milner, both of whom came off. They're going to miss out on Wednesday. Klopp doesn't know how long they're going to be out for, but that frees up two spots in the defence because Milner was deputising at left back and Matip was playing alongside Van Dijk at centre half. So could be Gomez and Robertson to come back in there, you'd think. Although Lovren's, of course, another option at centre half as well.
Yeah, I'm really hoping Gomez comes back in because if it's Lovren, I wouldn't necessarily want to bank my clean sheet there. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I expect Robertson to get some minutes because Milner's injured, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. How about Man United then? Very popular from this week onwards, at least for my team. Any kind of injury news there at all?
Looks good. Sounds good. Solskjaer said that everyone's come through the Tottenham game unscathed, which we presume means that Lindelof's all right because I think he was spotted limping off and put an ice pack on his leg in that Friday night match. So apart from that, yeah, I think we didn't hear much from Solskjaer really today. It was only a sub 10-minute press conference. I expect there'll be more comments coming out after the embargo, whenever that was. So yeah, we're anticipating that Pogba might be starting because he made a hell of a difference when he came off the bench against Spurs. It's just how he crowbars Pogba into the team, whether he goes to a diamond formation like he did against Everton and game week 28, or sacrifices one of Fred or McTominay in the sort of two holding midfield positions and plays Pogba there. So he's got a number of options. He's got so many central midfielders available to him now. But in terms of injuries, Solskjaer reporting a clean bill of health, which is good.
Yeah, I think that the diamond would be the perfect way to fit all our players in. It's just we don't really play it that often. But Daniel James, I
Yeah.
just not having him in the team wouldn't be the worst thing. Obviously, it's a big change of formation, so we'll have to see. But I'm expecting Popper to start. I think Sheffield United, him and Fernandes, is the way to kind of unlock that defence when we've struggled against those kind of defences before. So I'm hoping he starts at least. We'll have to wait and see. But the fact that he played well and got minutes, I think you're right, he should play. How about Wolves then? Again, another popular team for Game Week 31. People looking to triple up. Any concerns here?
Nope. Santo again, just in the last hour, says Wolves have got a clean bill of health, so it's going to be the week in, week out question of whether he starts with a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, which will, of course, mean whether Traore starts on the bench or in the starting 11. You'd think, given the impact he made on Saturday against West Ham, that he's got a great chance of starting this time. But you never truly know with Santo. He's been benched in 4 of the last 5 league games, Traore. So I wouldn't put my mortgage on it. But you would assume that assist for Jimenez at the weekend, plus the fact that it's bottom of the table, Bournemouth, relegation threatened Bournemouth in town. You think he'd maybe throw a caution to the wind a bit more and then play all 3 of his main attackers in a front 3. I mean, there's Pedro Neto, of course, as well, who could theoretically challenge Diogo Jota. He came on and scored Wolves' second on Saturday, but you'd think Jimenez between those 2 would be the more secure start of the 3, as he has been through the majority of the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that Traore will start. I just think as they try and bed everyone in, like he came on, he was so good. He feels like one of those players that's just always fit anyway, apart from all those shoulder injuries he had before the lockdown. But yeah, after that, it's just anyone's guess. That's why he probably wouldn't come near my team, but he did look so good. So if they start, maybe if you're on a free hit or something like that, it could be a great option this week. What about Leicester again? Another team that's maybe a bit more popular for kind of free hitters this week, playing Brighton at home. Anything to worry about there?
No, just a long-term one. So Pereira and Daniel Amati. Dennis Pratt's fit. He's been out with a calf problem. He missed game week 3. Question of who starts out wide. Jose Perez was only on the bench at the weekend. Didn't even get on. He missed out in the pre-restart friendly, so he didn't play a minute then either. So there's some doubts over whether he's fully match fit. If he is, you'd think he'd come in for all Brighton. But Damari Gray, who I've actually got in the predicted lineups, did come in on Saturday against who were they playing, Watford, and did really, really well. Albeit he came on for Harvey Barnes, which is a bit of a worry if you own him. But this is the age-old story with Damari Gray, and that he always looks good off the bench, and then when he gets given a start, he flatters to deceive. So a bit of uncertainty, I think, in the wide positions, but otherwise a fairly predictable team, you would think, for Leicester against Brighton.
So if you've got Gray in your predicted lineup, who misses out? Barnes, is it? You think he's going to be benched?
Well, Albrighton was playing on the right. I mean, it's tough. I think Barnes could theoretically miss out. I think we're all thinking he was in such good form prior to the lockdown period that he would be undroppable. But of course, 3 months has gone by since then, and form's almost useless now. So he could play on the left as he did when he came on. But yeah, Albrighton wasn't the greatest against Watford. I mean, it wasn't a stellar performance all round. If Perez is fully match fit, then you expect him to come in. It's just whether or not, given that he hasn't played a minute, not even in uncompetitive action since the lockdown period, that would be the only reservation with Perez, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, it makes sense to bed him in a bit slower, maybe give him a few minutes here or there. What about Spurs then? We kind of mentioned last time that it was getting close to Mourinho having all his attackers fit. I think they all are now, aren't they? Don't think he's got anyone, at least in the attack, to worry about.
That's right. Yeah, he said that yesterday in his press conference. That this is the first time he's had all 6 of his front players available. So that'll be Bergwijn, Ali, Son, Kane, Lamela, and Lucas Moura. So Ali's back from suspension. Lucas Moura's recovered from a knock. So yeah, he's got a sort of 4 from 6 out of that lot at best, because he has played with sort of 3-man midfield before, central midfield. So yeah, Son and Kane have started every match in which they've been available under Mourinho. Ali has almost got an unblemished record as well. And you'd think with him scoring against Man United that's done him the power of good for another start against West Ham. But Yeah, I think a lot of uncertainty there in the attack and midfield positions, which is not something you want. I think going into a lot of people playing a wild card or free hits, and probably will be targeted in this West Ham game as a fixture. So yeah, a bit of uncertainty I think in the attacking positions. Injury wise, it's just Tanganga and One Fight who are backup options in defence, which means that Sergio Aurier has probably got a clear run at right back until those two players are back available.
Yeah, I think he even said that, didn't he? That he's
Yeah.
basically the only player that's got no competition. But yeah, can't imagine Son and Kane are going to lose their place. The thing is with Spurs, and with a lot of teams behind kind of Chelsea with fourth, a lot of them have got a chance of getting that fifth spot, which could be Champions League spot this year. So I don't think Spurs are going to rotate that much. Obviously, you might see some. But I think Late Riser said it on the Scoutcast yesterday, you kind of get what you pay for. Son is pretty much nailed, but you have to pay over 9 million. Bergwijn's got more of competition now. Which could be a little bit of a worry, but he was pretty decent against Man United, so we'll have to see how he gets on there. What about Sheffield United, who were just a nightmare in game week 30? Obviously, O'Connell missed out, Fleck missed one game, and then he came back. Is there any kind of more news from them? Is Robinson looking like maybe a starter for a bit longer?
He could be. Wilder said that he's in daily conversations with the medical department about Jack O'Connell. I've seen some suggestions that he may be out for the season, but Wilder himself said yesterday that that's a load of rubbish. So he's hopeful that he's going to be close to recovering. But he did suggest that he make a sensible decision when he's right and fit to play, which I wonder if that was hinting at him not starting at Man United. So Robinson could get a stay of execution for now, but yeah, it's a patched up defence, even aside from that, because Egan is suspended and Dean Henderson's ineligible to play against his parent club. So it'll be one of Moore or Verrips in goal. And Wilder was heavily signposting to the fact that Jake Gallagher was going to play as the middle centre half in Egan's absence. So all of a sudden, that looks like a very decent fixture for United. We discussed this a little bit last week, didn't we, when we were talking about Henderson being out. But the fact that they could be down Egan and O'Connell as well, which, two of the three regular centre halves, that would fill you with a bit more confidence if you own the likes of Fernandes or Rashford.
Yeah, in classic FPL kind of psychology, the closer we get to deadline, the amount of times I've said there's no Henderson, Egan, O'Connell, we put 3 past them last time, it's going to be a 0-0. You can just see it now. I'm captaining Fernandes.
You'll get a reaction, won't you? Yeah, because it was so bad a performance on Sunday.
I don't know, you might have mentioned it then. He did say something like he hadn't seen them yet. Like it sounded like quite angry about how the result. And they were awful. They were all, even though it was 10 men, even before that, they weren't great. And they weren't that good against Villa, I don't think, either. So yeah, I'm hoping Man United can do something, but we'll have to wait and see. Talking of Aston Villa, any particular worries there?
No, I think Smith said everyone's going through that Game Week 30 doubleheader fine. Gilbert's back in training after a knee problem. And Danny Drinkwater was eligible to play. He couldn't face Chelsea on Sunday because obviously he's on loan. But Smith did say that his back fours look really solid, so there's no guarantees that Gilbert gets back into that side. Conte has been playing at right back. He did say that his squad would come into consideration, given that there's only been 72 hours turnaround between the games. So the usual sort of squad players could feature like Trezeguet, maybe Nakamba. Samata could potentially come in for Davis up top, because Davis spent a lot of time running off the ball, chasing Chelsea shadows on Sunday. But he did say the game was fine. That his fitness was getting there. This is his first 2 starts of the calendar year, so he is a possible candidate for rotation. But he's someone, when he's on his game and when he's fit, does offer something that none of the central midfielders do. There was a glimpse of it on Sunday, actually, sort of ghosted in to the box against Chelsea and nodded around just wide. It's just his stamina levels at the moment, I think, are the problem. He's been substituted off in both of the games so far, so he's edging back towards full fitness. It's just whether or not he can handle a third start in the space of a week.
Yeah, it must be such a hard decision because they obviously want to play him as much as possible because they are in a relegation fight and they need him, but they don't want to kind of get him injured for the rest of the season. So I don't know if many people will be holding on to him, but maybe if you wildcarded him in or unlimited transferred him in and don't have your wildcard, it might be worth keeping him just for a bit longer. So I think it's Newcastle this week, right? So it's not necessarily the most tricky game, but and anything particular from Newcastle? I think it was just the Longstaff brothers, wasn't it? I think was still maybe injured.
Nobody who featured against Sheffield United's got any issue. It's just the two Longstaff brothers, Clark and Lejeune, aren't ready to feature, which is good news for Fernandes and Lascelles, because those are two of the number of backup options you got at centre half. Dummett's ineligible to play as well, so they've only got Fabian Schär as a backup centre half. Just Bruce saying that spirit's been good after that win. We do have an FA Cup quarter final against Man City on Sunday, which you'd think would take precedent now, because we're pretty safe, I would say. Newcastle, we're well clear of the drop zone. But he has got 5 substitutes to use, so he could start with a similar team to what beat Sheffield United and then make changes within that game against Villa. You want to keep momentum going as well ahead of Man City, because that is our biggest remaining game of the season now. So, injury-wise, nothing new, just the aforementioned problems that we had going into Game Week 30.
Cool. Should we just? I think that's all the major news. Unless I've missed anything, do you want to just rattle through any other things that you've got for the other teams?
Yeah, Arsenal. Unfortunately, we won't hear from Arteta until tonight. I think she'll be after the deadline, which is no use. But looks like Bernardo's going to be out for a while, along with Chambers, Torreira, Cedric, Socrates, Mari, Granit Xhaka as well. David Luiz is suspended, so they're well down on numbers. But again, we won't get confirmation of anything new happening until probably after the deadline. I'll keep my eyes posted though. Bournemouth, Philip Billing is very close to a comeback. Josh King, who sustained an injury against Palace, looked quite bad, but he's only suffered a minor ligament strain, so he's not even ruled out of the Wolves game. They're going to make a late call on him. Brighton, nothing new to report. Potter said rotation is a possibility, but what's new there? Burnley, they were in action last night, and Dyche hasn't given a standalone press conference, but there was some quotes coming out this lunchtime, probably embargo from last night, and they are definitely going to be without Barnes, Wood, and Goodmanson. Brady's got a minor tear in his groin, so it doesn't sound like he's going to be featuring either. And they've got these 4 out of contract players who didn't feature on Monday. Joe Hart was going to leave anyway, and looked like Aaron Lennon as well. But Barnsley and Hendrick have been regulars really this season, right back and down the right of midfield. And they are not going to be considered for selection while their contract situations are up in the air. So they were really down to the bare bones against Man City, as you saw. 2 goalkeepers on the bench, a number of academy products. Couldn't even name 9 subs. Whether that was a gesture to the chairman, I'm not sure. But yeah, it could be slim pickings for Dyche, really. It could be Rodriguez and Vidra up top again, with Josh Brownhill being forced to play on the right. Chelsea is, they're the third team we haven't heard from, because they're in action on Thursday against Man City, and we haven't heard from Lampard. So we don't know whether Reece James is match fit enough to start. He looked very rusty when he came on as a sub against Villa. And I think his availability will dictate how Lampard sets up, because I can't imagine him playing Alonso in a back 4 against the likes of, it could be Mahrez up against him, it could be Sterling up against him. So if Reece James can't play, then I suspect he may go to a wing-back system, which Alonso was much more comfortable in, and then play 3 centre-halves. But yeah, Jorginho's back from suspension in midfield, which makes them all the more difficult to second-guess, because they've got such a big squad. Palace still without Schlupp, Tompkins and Kelly. So they were all missing on the weekend anyway, so you wouldn't expect many changes there. Everton got a number of injury problems, but none of them new. All of them missed the Merseyside derby. Gabamin, Walcott, Sidibe, Delph and Mina are all out. And Schneiderlin's just left for Nice today, so he's not in contention. We've done all those. Norwich, Handley, Zimmerman, Byram out for the season. No new concerns. Steepman's back available for selection, because he had been self-isolating after a positive COVID test. So that the last one I've heard from, actually. Gineppo was still suspended, second game of a 3-match ban. Long is fit though, so he comes back in contention. Watford was scheduled as 2:00 on the press conference report, but we've had experience with us before about embargoes at 5:00, which would be the worst possible time for FPL because that's exactly when the deadline is. I'll keep my eyes on that, see if anything breaks. And something might have broken in the meantime while I've been on air. Delafio's success in Janmaat with the long-term absentees who we know about, which just leaves West Ham, I think. Sebastian Haller still hasn't trained, and Snodgrass looks like he might be out for some time with a back problem. But Agbonna's back in training, so it could be in line for a recall. And I think that's it. Pretty much, yeah, we covered Wolves, so I think those are the headlines anyway from a team news perspective. But I'll keep tabs on Twitter for the next 2 hours, particularly Watford, in case anything breaks there. And just keep checking our social media and the team news tab, which is complete now. It's got all 20 teams in, but if anything new develops, then I'll be revising that as I go this afternoon.
Yeah, make sure to check that out. Obviously, FF Scout on Twitter. If I get Ben Foster in, and then we find out after 5:00 that for some reason he's picked up a training ground injury because we didn't get the press conference news, I'll go nuts. But we'll wait and see if that happens. I won't keep you much longer because I know there's loads of stuff to do, and I'm not going to make you reveal your whole wild card. But captaincy for you this week, who's it going to be, or who's it on right now?
It's on Mane. It's on Mane, who was in my wildcard draft. I didn't actually own him in Gameweek 30. But I am worried slightly about Liverpool. I think the fact that he made so many changes against Everton, the fact that they're going to be welcoming back Salah, who you'd think would be more inclined to start. I'm not convinced that that's the best option now, especially given how sort of rusty they looked against Everton. Obviously, that was partly down to the number of changes he made, and it wasn't a regular first 11. I'm edging ever closer towards a Man United option, given Sheffield United's defence. Son's also in with a shout as well, I suppose. But I don't think there's one outstanding candidate this week, which I think is reflected in the captain poll. I think there's a bit of a split. Could be Fernandes. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. I actually thought that everyone would be I guess the fact that, like you said, Salah got benched is not good, and they did make quite a few changes. I thought everyone was going to be drawn to Mane, Salah, and I thought Fernandes. I knew it wouldn't be like completely different, and a few people would go for it. But it feels like more and more are getting drawn. And like I said, it's going to be a 0-0. I can just see it. Probably should just captain someone like Doherty against Bournemouth. He'd probably be just as good as anyone. All right, good stuff. We'll leave it there. Like Neale said, make sure to check out social media and stuff for all that latest team news, just in case there are any changes. We probably will be back on Friday, although there is only 2 games over the weekend, so I'm not sure how much news we'll have. So we'll probably decide on Friday. If not, we'll do something different. I'm just reading on Twitter now. Sorry, from Manchester City, Aguero suffered damage to his left knee in our recent 5-0 win. He will now travel to Barcelona to see Dr. Ramon Cugat for further examination. So he's going to be out a while, isn't he? Maybe the rest of the season. All right, cool. Thanks very much for joining us, Neale.
No problem, Andy. Good luck, everybody.
And cheers, everyone. We'll see you again soon.